Hi everyone, welcome to episode 3 on software modernisation. So in episode 1, we discussed the drivers, and then in the second episode, we opened up the conversation to look at a lot of the challenges that you would face when kind of starting and implementing a software modernisation initiative. So today we're going to build on the discussion, and we're going to talk about how we can face into the problems that organisations face, and we'll talk about how you can tackle these with some really helpful advice. So to start the conversation, let's dig a little deeper. Where do you even start? You've identified the issues that you'll probably face in your organisation. Where do you go from there?
Maybe I can try to answer that. In the previous episode, we said that sometimes we go straight to a solution. This is a classical mistake that technical people make is they start providing a solution. And that normally the discussion becomes around if people like the solution or not, but they don't discuss the problem. So for me, two things they need to happen and in that order. For me, the first one is business alignment. Before we go to a modernization effort, what is the business problems that are trying to solve? So if there is an alignment, because like one thing that you as the person that is trying to drive, you might have your own ideas of what you are trying to address, but it doesn't mean that there is an alignment with the rest of the organization. Because in the previous episode, we also talked about buy-in. So the first thing that needs to happen is we need that buy-in. For that, we need business alignment. Once we have business alignment in a specific area, that's when we need to start talking about the technical alignment. And for business alignment, for me, there are different things. For some, that is, is this like an optimization thing? For example, we have some inefficiencies in the company, and this modernization is all about tackling those inefficiencies. And if yes, which inefficiencies? Or we would like to go to have a more strategic approach. We would like to release new features or target a new piece of the market. So we would need to modernize in order to innovate, let's say. So that kind of business analysis or business alignment needs to be clear to everyone. The goals needs to be clear. So that's where I would start from.
I think there is another important point is that, or rather, when you said like sometimes we don't even talk about the problem, we go directly into the solution. I think it's slightly more subtle. We're not saying that you don't think about the problem or think about the challenges, but it's actually about problem analysis, right? And that's about looking at the problems the business is facing that are because of the constraints that you have on the technical side, right? And that's where the alignment that you talked about as well. But it's actually looking deeper into those business problems and analyzing them properly, because at a high level, they could be quite general, but you need to look deeper into them and see what are the different categories of problems that are lying underneath them, right? And kind of take that and move towards the root causes on the technical side as well. So it's about problem analysis. So before we even think about what solution we need to have, it's about understanding the problem properly and understanding the root causes behind that.
It's also very much a point of view, right? On each of the parts involved in that problem, right? Because a lot of times you're seeing it, if you're the one pushing for this, you have a clear, let's say, sense of urgency around solving this issue, but that may not be the case for the rest of the organization or the rest of the stakeholders involved. So there's a lot of helping to create that shared vision or understanding of what we're trying to achieve, as you were mentioning, but also how important is that to what they're trying to achieve themselves. So I think it's a key aspect of that not only to analyze the problem, but see how that fits into the wider strategy that each of the areas are sort of trying to achieve. Going back to what kind of business opportunity are we missing on, or situation is being created by the technical side maybe not being able to keep up with what we want to achieve. And within that, there is an aspect of addressing things like complacency or skepticism, where maybe we tried this before, right? This is the third time that we are rewriting the monolith. What is different now, right? Or is this already works for us, right? Like, why do you want me to do extra work if I'm already okay with with the situation as is, right? So there is an aspect of also digging into those and creating or extracting the information that you would need in order to create that common understanding.
But one of the biggest challenges that I see is the alignment itself. The implementation of that alignment is where things really fall apart. So there are specific techniques that sometimes we use that helps with that. So one of my favorites, for example, that we've done quite a few times, which is really eye-opening, is the value stream mapping, for example. And this is just one technique out of many. I'm just giving as an example, so just to put more context in what we are talking about. But techniques like that, for example, it's important. If you want to align, we need to understand who you are aligning with. And those people need to be together in the same place. And they all need to be able to express their point of view. But at the same time, they all need to see the same problems. And a technique like value stream mapping, again, there are quite a few others, but you can say, okay, let's map the entire process from an idea all the way to software going to production. And then all of those different people in the same room, what happens normally in most organizations, that each one of those people, they are more involved in different parts of that process. And they have their own perceptions of other parts of the process. But once we align them, it's like, okay, so when we are creating ideas, you want to build something new, who gets involved? What is the process? Who talks to whom? When do you get to the decision that you're going to get the money, or that you're going to feed to a team, or so how that happen? And all of a sudden, the people that are heavily more involved in that area, they start telling how they work, and you start mapping those steps. And everyone else that normally don't have access to that says, oh, is that how it works? And then it's okay, now that came into another phase, like to the teams and stuff, what do you do? And so on and so forth. And you talk about production and testing and all until it goes to prod. And you also talk about the inefficiencies. So because you ask questions, what happens when this goes wrong? How often this goes wrong? How far back it comes? All of a sudden you have this big map and everyone looks at it. And this is a thing that I experienced quite a few times, like, is this how we work? Right?
I remember once we did this exercise, Sandro, a few years back, and like one set of people started drawing this, and then another set of people said, no, that's not how it is. And it was kind of news to them as well. It's what you talk about, the perception sometimes is the perception of what's happening is quite different in different people's heads. And because often they've not had the chance to sit down together like this for a long time, their understandings have diverged, and in some cases quite significantly.
So because I'm particularly interested in kind of where we can take this next. I've spent many a year filling in many a business case in previous roles and lives. How do you articulate the value so you all can identify where maybe the inefficiencies are in that value stream in the process, or where the opportunities are? How do you then, you're all bought in as an organization, how do you then articulate the value to kind of like move into that next stage?
Well, this is very dependent on what the organization is trying to achieve. No, so what is that strategic goal? What are those opportunities that you're going for, etc. And based on that, you sort of can already start placing a value on what is more important out of that, whole process. No, what are the most impactful, let's say, things, right? But then you start digging into the data itself, right? Like you can then start asking questions of, how long does this take? What if we shorten that time, by half? No, that's an increasing productivity of half. No, in some of these cases, you can start looking at, what the monetary impact is of something, I don't know, going to production and having, a failure, right? Both from a point of view of, clients, so more tangible things and intangible things, like how pissed off our clients get versus, do we lose money, right? Because the system is down or because, right? And you can start digging into all of those, let's say, effects or ripple effects that these things have all across the organization, and start compiling a case or a business case for some of these initiatives, right? And a lot of times you can put a number on a lot of the costs, either time invested or opportunities lost, etc. Right? So that's one area.
When we talk about aligning at the business level, there are, for me, two slightly different types of alignment at that level. One is, first of all, understand how we work, right? And where the inefficiencies are, and also understand where we want to go. So that is another alignment. Okay, we work like that, great, but what we would like to achieve? Where are we going? And then do that mapping. Okay, if you want to be in this other place, what would we need to change or optimize in order to achieve that? So those are the different alignments. But then this is still not enough for a case yet, because you are still on the problem domain, right? So you're still trying to have a single view of the problem. At that point that everyone understands where they want to be, what they should optimize or improve or so on, then they need to get to the how. And that's where I normally talk about the technical alignment. Okay, so now that we understand the problem, how do we do that? So now that we know where we need to optimize, what is the cost of it? What would be the approach? And then, similar to the business, there will be many different approaches to solve the same problem. And we need to analyze and get a technical alignment on that as well, because how much investment would you want to make? So how many parallel changes do you want to make? So you also need to create a technical strategy, because you will not be able to completely change your your systems and architecture overnight.
So the alignment, I guess, goes across many layers, isn't it? It's on one end you have the solution, and on the other end you have the problem, and they need to align. But in between, you've got people, processes, organization all together, right?
I would treat that even as part of, so the way that sometimes we talk about that, is, okay, what would be the optimal solution, right? So you have this problem, what would be the ideal solution? And already knowing that's probably we're not gonna pick that one because of all the different constraints. So then you can walk backwards. It's like, okay, but what are the constraints that we have? And that's where pragmatism will need to come into play. Okay, it would be lovely to use all these beautiful technologies and change everything. Yeah, but we're not going to have a business if we do that, right? So we need to still do business as usual. We still, as you're saying, Ash, we have processes, we have skills and stuff. So that's when you start tailoring. Okay, what is possible to do given what we have, or where we should invest? And if you invest in one place, it might be a case where if you invest here, you might not be able to invest so much somewhere else. So all of that is, for me, part of creating that technical alignment, that technical strategy.
It's almost kind of starts going into prioritization, isn't it? Once you know all the things that you want to fix, or you then start looking at that kind of quadrant of how easy or hard it is and how much value it provides. right? And ideally, you want to be looking at things that are actually relatively easy, although nothing is easy, and provides the most amount of value, because you want to start tackling those things first in order to give yourself a momentum, but also to get the best return on the work that you're putting in, right?
So what other support or tools and techniques are there for people that are looking to they're aware of the challenges, they're facing into those challenges, and they're wanting to start software modernization in their organization?
Yeah, there are quite a few. As I said, I mentioned one of the techniques, value stream mapping. So there are a lot of good techniques out there that people could try to look at. I think that part of, at least at this level, that is more on the alignment, on making a case, there is a lot of different skills and different types of supports, in my view. Be able to communicate the vision, but not only communicate your vision, but is that ability to bring people together and make sure that they see the same thing and they agree. So there is a lot of skills in doing that. So sometimes you have people inside your organization that can do that very well. Sometimes bringing people from outside. I remember how often I heard, like, you come in, you have a half an hour meeting, you say exactly the same thing that I've been saying for 3 years, and they never listen to me. So sometimes it's just having someone from outside that doesn't have that personal relationship, that is more like independent in a way, just to facilitate. That helps a lot. And there are other, we even have in our website, right, Jose, that we have like a case, a business case. Right?
Yeah, we have lots of material around building that business case, both from the point of view of presenting, and as well as what to look for, right? Like if you're trying to undergo this transformation, whatever, what are the things that you should be looking at in order to get that data, get that buy-in, and start having interesting conversations with the rest, right? With the people that are going to be supporting this change. So yeah, definitely go to website, and we'll most likely post a link or something to provide.
I think going back to the facilitation thing, it's always it's very difficult to facilitate if you have if you're part of the organization, right? You need to be slightly you need to step slightly away from it, and so if you, for example, can't get an external person to help or external company to help, look for facilitators who are not part of that initiative, that project, that kind of ecosystem, right? So that's one thing. The other thing is there are a number of skills that, it's not just good facilitation skills. It's having a innate view on the kind of workshops that you're going to run. For example, value stream mapping. Value stream mapping is a very subtle exercise. On the face of it, it looks quite simple, but actually to get the best value out from it, you need to be able to understand. You need to be able to kind of bring out that knowledge, or the kind of processes that are almost implicit, that people are not even thinking about, and to kind of ask the right questions to pull that knowledge out, because sometimes they don't even see it. They do it, but it's almost tacit knowledge. So you need to be able to bring all that out, and good facilitation, expert facilitation is actually extremely important.
A part of this, we talked about communication, we talked about this facilitation, but the engagement part of these things, like when you're making a decision, if you just make a decision and then try to sell it, is very different than if you make people part of co-creating that decision, right? And there, the request for comments or whatever is one thing that you can use, but the idea is try to already engage people in that change and try to already get them feeling as part of what is being done, and not just something that is being pushed, because that will also create that resistance.
Yeah, I think this is a really important part, is taking people along with the process is extremely important. It needs to be almost like a common document that everyone's working from, so that this can be a lengthy process, and that things are not lost in time, that people don't kind of forget about certain things that was discussed.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Well, I've really enjoyed the discussion. I've really enjoyed building from the problem space out with some real practical advice on how you would kind of face into those challenges. Next time, we're going to be talking about how you set your teams up, building on today's and that practical advice, how you set the teams up to move forward with your modernization initiative. So thank you, everyone, for your time today.
See you next
Thank
time.
you.